So beyond these things, let's talk a little bit about food. How can you get biotin in what you eat? What are the food sources that are going to help you make sure that you're getting biotin on a daily basis? Now, I hinted at one earlier. Probably one of the richest sources of biotin is the incredible edible egg. And again, just not the Rocky Balboa style, not the shake that you down with the egg whites, but the cooked egg. Egg is the richest source of dietary biotin that you can get. So foods, we got the egg. Number 2 is the liver. The liver is a great source of biotin, as it is for so many other vitamins as well. The liver is a source of pretty much all of the B vitamins. And my old biochemistry professor in graduate school used to say the liver is the giver, and it means the liver stores a lot of these nutrients so that it can redistribute them into the body as they're needed. And so when you eat animal liver, for example, it's a great source because just like in humans, the animals, their liver is a storage facility for excellent nutrients as well. Mushrooms, another great source of biotin. A lot of medicinal properties with mushrooms as well. They help support immune function and in some cases help the immune system work better. You've got spinach as a good source of biotin. So if you're a vegetarian or you're more of a plant-based type of person, you've got, instead of eggs and liver, you've got mushroom, you've got spinach that you can also consume. There's also carrots, tomatoes are great sources. And I'm listing these too, folks. I'm listing these in order of greatest to least. So this is quantity, kind of pound for pound. Think about these as their richness in biotin. And then beef, and we're talking about red meat here, beef at number 7, coming into the number 7 spot. And then the last one on this list of foods rich in biotin is lettuce. So if you're looking for food sources, jump in, dive in to any of these things, again, minus the ones you might potentially be allergic to. So if you've worked with a functional medicine doctor and had food allergy testing, obviously avoid what you're reactive to. But these are great sources, and there's a variety of different things here on this list, whether you're plant-based or whether you're not. There's diets, there's plant-based, there's vegan, there's carnivores out there. So it doesn't matter where you are, you can get biotin. You just have to look for it in the right places. So let's talk a little bit next. There are a couple of different studies that have started to come out on people actually, really more specifically, researchers looking at treating certain diseases using biotin. And so there are 2 areas of research that we've seen where there has been some impactful benefit. And one of them is in multiple sclerosis. So I want to be clear, these research studies are far from definitive, okay? But multiple sclerosis, some studies show that biotin helps to reduce some of the symptom progression in multiple sclerosis. So some of the neurological symptoms, the neuropathy, the ataxia, the depressions, that biotin can actually be helpful in that regard in patients with multiple sclerosis. Another type of medical condition that biotin has been shown to help with is the diabetes. And we're talking about, in this case, we're talking about type 2. We're not talking about insulin-dependent diabetes. We're talking about diabetes type 2, which is adult onset typically, or we could say today teenage onset, because so many younger kids are developing lifestyle diabetes, food choice diabetes, as I like to call it. But there's some research now coming out that says that blood sugars can be helped, or you can get a little bit better regulation by using higher doses of biotin. Now, I don't recommend either one of these 2 things, and let me explain why. We're talking about, first of all, the research on this is really quite preliminary. But second of all, there's something called green medicine, and there's something called functional medicine. What is green medicine? Green medicine is the art, science, and practice of using natural agents instead of drugs to address the symptoms that somebody might have. So if we use green medicine, it's a natural approach to symptom control. And in my opinion, although it's less dangerous than medicine in terms of side effects and risk, it's still a bad idea to isolate and use green medicine instead of regular medicine. I prefer functional medicine, and here's why. Functional medicine looks at the origin of why the symptoms are there, okay? And then helps you to address the origin of the problem. If we use green medicine or use a natural agent to get better outcomes in terms of symptoms in diseases like this, we're still not ascertaining the reason why the disease exists. And that's why. Again, it's not that you couldn't use biotin or a biotin for MS or diabetes, but again, if it does help with your symptoms, it's still, most people don't develop a multiple sclerotic condition or diabetic condition because of a biotin deficiency. That's just not generally the way biotin deficiency manifests. So using high doses of any nutrients to overcome symptoms is the practice of green medicine. And green medicine is still suppressing symptoms, albeit with natural items instead of drugs. And that is not the core goal. Remember, the core goal is individual freedom of symptoms through the freedom of expression of changes in diet and lifestyle, freeing your body to function and heal naturally through changes in behavior is the best thing that you can do. Taking high doses of nutrients, hoping that they'll help your symptoms, is not necessarily the best thing that you can do. So again, there is research that shows benefit here, but I would say proceed in those directions with caution, because it's a form of green medicine. And if you really want to find out why the disease exists, you really want to dive in deeper than just symptomatic control. So all that being said, let's open the floor. Actually, let's cover one more area because I can already hear the questions coming in. Dr. Osborne, if I took biotin, how much can I take? What's the safe quantity? Is there a particular type of biotin, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So biotin, is it safe to take? It is safe. Are there any known toxicity levels? No. And research has shown that up to 5 milligrams or 5,000 micrograms per day for as long as 2 years did not produce any side effects or toxic symptoms. And so some of you may say, well, if it doesn't produce any toxicity, why couldn't I use it here? Again, it's not that I'm worried about the biotin doing damage. I'm worried about the biotin masking the deeper root of your problem, and then you being happy to just continue to use that without making diet and lifestyle changes to correct the actual underlying reason why the disease exists. So biotin does not have any known toxicity. Now, that being said, there's an intelligent approach to this too, which is anything in high enough quantities for a long enough period of time can become toxic. And that includes biotin. And we just don't have any research that shows what level that is. So what we do know is that 5 milligrams taken for 2 years daily did not show any toxic side effects. So that being said, what's the daily requirement for biotin? If we're looking at daily requirements, it's 30 to 100 micrograms per day, which is a lot lower than 5,000 micrograms for 2 years, right? So daily requirement is this. Now, here's the thing about daily requirements. Daily requirements are designed and they're based on how to overcome disease. So if somebody has the disease state of biotin deficiency, it requires 30 to 100 micrograms to get them out of the bulk of symptoms, of aggressive symptoms being caused by that disease. But there's an upper range and there's an optimal level. And so that's where the argument in science is that some people will say, well, if the daily range is 30 to 100, why would you ever take 5,000 or more than 5,000? And the reason is because this is the amount that's designed to keep a person out of a disease state. But there are subclinical disease states or subclinical symptoms that can begin to set in. And so this is the gray area, where because doctors don't ever test it, we really don't have enough data overall to say that a lot of people that develop these conditions are not actually in effect biotin deficient. So again, unless your doctor's just checking your nutritional status on a regular basis. But again, biotin really safe to take in higher doses as far as the research has shown to date. Hey, don't forget to check out the rest of the series right here. Make sure you hit subscribe below. And as always, thanks for tuning in.